Hey all, I thought we'd film outside today. I'm sorry that the weather's so ugly here in San Diego, but that is the marine layer for you. We're going to talk about the Daybells today. Let's get salty. So, on the wake of Lori Vallow's convictions in Idaho, she is now being arraigned back in Arizona for the murder of Charles Vallow. Lori is going to be the one back there um, to stand trial and answer for it. People are saying, why? What's the point of bringing charges against somebody who's been already convicted of multiple murder charges? Well, in my opinion, Arizona wants its bite, and they have a right to it. They also can decide what they want to charge with, and if for any reason something happens, Lori gets a new trial or gets off on a technicality in Idaho, Arizona's right there saying, hey, we're holding her accountable too. And finally, Charles is a victim in his own right, and he deserves his own day in court for his murderer to answer for his murder. And Lori is the only one left to do that. So personally, I wouldn't mind seeing a trial, but I hope that the resources of the state are not spent that way. I hope she's able to plead out and just simply never get out of prison. If you've seen anything about this case so far, you've probably wondered, what is wrong with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell? Their actions just don't make sense. There's a very good reason why all these behaviors don't make sense to you, but to them, it made complete sense, right? They were all meshing with one another on this belief, and that's how cults work. There's this concept in psychology called folly ado, which literally translates to mistake of two. And it's this idea of a mind virus that starts in one person and spreads to another so that their perception of reality is tainted to fit a belief that they already have. Everybody does this to a certain extent. We all have expectations, and then we see what we expect. But the person who does this is doing so with such deviant expectations. They're so pathological that the changes that this causes are so antisocial. It's dramatic. It's violent, like what's happening with these two. They have both spread this mind virus and validated it within one another that says it's all right to do all these antisocial things, that says this is an alternate world for you to live in emotionally and mentally so you won't see reality. It's really something very especially terrifying. Lori's icy face in that courtroom that says none of it sunk in, especially when you hear the emotional testimony and emotional calls from her family. At first, it sort of slid under the radar. This couple actually got away with a few murders before it started to look really too weird. People started to look at them and say, either they're befallen with a next level of tragedy in their lives, or they're involved. Then, who knows, they may still have gotten away with it if it weren't for the children. And this woman, their grandmother, Kay Woodcock. Kay was targeted early on by Lori because Kay didn't conform to this sort of thinking, and she was a threat because she already had this close bonded relationship to JJ, and Lori's bond to Charles in some ways was through JJ. So I think to Lori, Kay Woodcock was somebody who saw through or threatened to see through her veneer of being a perfect mother and possibly call her out for what she was. So she engaged in this psychological distancing method to say, hey, she's not just some woman, she's a dark soul. Anything Kay did, Lori could attribute negativity to and gather supporters around her. So it was part of a larger gaslighting process of Kay so that Lori's community didn't support Kay or anything she did in order to protect JJ. It's really like much more malicious and much deeper leveled than at first blush. So, one, she had these delusions going on, but two, at the same time in her mind, she was aware of what she really was and had a fear of being called out. So there's something truly believer In Lori, there's also a psychopathic side, a totally dissociated side. I'm not a clinician and I can't diagnose. I'm just observing what I see, in my opinion. There's something like very incongruent about this adult woman acting, as many have said, like a teenager in love with no stable ground. She's acting like an adult with a fully developed frontal cortex of her brain. Lori was a great mother until Chad. Everybody seems to agree that until Chad came into the picture, Lori would have never done anything like this. But I disagree. I think that Lori was attracted to Chad for exactly the danger that he represented. Remember, she obsessively read his books. She was very into his opinions and perspectives long before she met him. And to me, this represents somebody who was searching for what she found in him, which was a justification to behave how she wanted to behave. She had a history. This Chad ended up being her 5th husband currently. So this is a woman who I would see as having like strong emotional ups and downs. And then through several different pieces of video evidence that have already been out there, we see the interview of Lori Vallow in the police station hours after Charles Vallow has been now we know murdered. And her cool affect and playful laughing demeanor is pretty psychopathic. Like she's completely aware of the lie and completely it seems as if she's working to convince us while she convinces them, and she's completely target focused and like imprinting this lie on herself while she's spewing it out to them. It's a very interesting watch. And then there is her in Phoenix right after they moved there, talking to the police after Charles called. There's a couple different like baseline scenes where we can look at this breezy affect, and it's extremely otherworldly, right? She is like disassociated completely. She is somewhere else in her mind. She's completely somewhere else in her mind. And all this is just rolling over her because she's convinced herself that there is a higher power, a deeper meaning, and she has this knowledge and selfness in her that is set apart from everyone else. She's different. You can see even the language she uses separates herself from action, right? I was called. It's all second person passive speech. So she constantly divests any action or place responsible in what's happening and sort of redirects to everyone else around her. It's a pretty common self-defense mechanism of women, but again, she does it next level like a predator. Lori starts consuming Chad's books. Okay, so we've got Mother of the Year, Mom of 3, and she's got this active facade where she's all about her religion, all about her beliefs, all about being a community member and a good mother and how she's viewed. And it's working. She has this great, I say great for her, not great for the rest of society, but for her, she has this great ability to blend in and provide what's expected. It's really like high level masking. I think it's psychopathic masking. But I have seen non-psychopaths get to this tipping point of belief where absolutely nothing you show them or say to them wakes them up, right? You show this woman, Lori, pictures of her son's strangled body or her daughter's burned out corpse, and she thinks that's the husk of a demon. She has completely dissociated these bodies from her children. So no amount of horror that you show her is going to click it over. So in that situation, if she isn't a psychopath, she's going to act like one because she's not getting the social cues to make her feel like everyone is saying she should feel. Something is not connecting for her. And it's scary. It's not connecting in an extremely scary way, not a lost deer kind of way like she wants to pretend. So something's really wrong here. I would look at this woman and say, something's wrong. Like your gut should go off and say, Something's not congruent about how what she's pretending to be and who she is. But it's funny, time and time again, in retrospect, we know that. But at the time, she keeps sliding under the radar, and she's masking by being with a group that's already kind of off. They're already kind of weird, but they're getting tolerance for just having a different religious viewpoint. It's right on the edge of murder until it slides into murder. And people around don't notice, like a frog slowly boiling in water that they don't jump out of until they're literally sizzling to death. So what happens with these two meet and some sort of catastrophic change happens in both of them that knocks them over the edge? Well, first, they validate each other's delusions. Before, each of them had a family keeping 1 foot of them grounded in reality, grounded in some sort of expectation of who they should show up to be. Even if they didn't have an internal guide, they had an external guide from the people around them that either accepted them and accepted and validated the BS that they believed, or said, no, you've gone too far. But at some point, they stopped valuing these opinions of external people because they turned into an internal cycle of just validating each other's delusions and strange beliefs, so that they completely separated from the rest of society. And the psychology behind this, in my opinion, is the rest of society can't understand us anyway. We're unique. We're different. It's us against them. And then they're able to completely fraction off that part of themselves that is pro-social. So if they were like, psychopaths right on the edge, they jumped off the cliff. Before all this, Lori was a hairdresser. She was a mother and a hairdresser. And I suspect there, of course, she learned to gossip and process information and sort of how people thought on a pop culture level. She does a vocal fry in her voice. She does a lot of like younger styles and looks. And she carries herself like a woman probably younger than her 40s. She wants to be seen as younger, more youthful, more sexual. That's my opinion of Lori. Chad, on the other hand, was this stable father and professional grave digger. And then he turned into a self-proclaimed prophet. That's all for today. We'll come back to talk about this some more. And I will look at the comments and see what you guys want to dive into specifically. Sun's coming out. Have a great week after Memorial Day.